Hello there, I am Nu-Trix, the synth guy, and today we're talking about the latest and greatest synth from AudioKit. I'm saying that because they always come up with some cool stuff, sometimes weird, and you go, how, what, huh? But this case, it's called the King of Bass. It's actually a synth dedicated to bass and bass drums. Remember, a while back they had the Bass 808 synthesizer, which was pretty cool and aimed at making bass and mostly kick drums, but you could also do bass in it if you tweaked it. Now this one is a little bit more complex. It goes a little bit further in this process. It has a better synth engine, I would say. It has more features in it, and I mean they created stuff along the way over the time, and now it's included in this one. Still, it's not a full-fledged synthesizer doing everything you want. It's based to be a bass synth or a kick drum synth. So if you want to do snares, forget about it. If you do hi-hat, forget about it. If you want to do synth, you can. If you want to do leads, you can. If you want to do pads, it's possible. But we'll look at it. Let's just listen to it. I'll do a quick tour of what it can do, and I'll show you ways to go around the limits that it has, because there's limits, and that's always where you get creative when you get limits in your devices. So let's look at what it does. Let's start from the beginning. You've got this window here, which is the main window. This is made to go quickly about loading a sound, tweaking a little bit of the sound design really quickly to have the sound you want without going too deep into synthesis. The other windows, you get into it. So this one, you basically have the window, the volume. I've got the 808 live. Let's say I'm going to try and take this one because it's easier to actually understand what the other things do. So in this case here, you've got the drop and kick it and sustain. Kick it is basically say, take that sound, put it into a kick, kind of a kick drum type of approach. Kick it, you've got sustain. If you bring the sustain down, right away the sound will go no sustain. So you're kind of bypassing the logic of the rest of the envelope that you have later on in the synthesis. But you've got the drop. The drop is basically a pitch drop, like an envelope dropping the pitch on the sound. And this is something we do often with synthesis, synthesized drum, is that we want to have the kick that goes, boo, that drops in pitch. So this is basically how much the drop will happen. Almost no drop, and maximum drop, and then sustain gives you a longer drop. So this is the amount or the pitch difference. And we got the drop time, which is 3 seconds. And the sustain makes it that you hear most of it or no. So the drop and the kick, the drop and the sustain. Let's take this out. So I have my bass sound. I get a filter. Of course, it's not a real analog filter, but it's modeled to be an analog filter. And you got a resonance. It goes loud enough to become really self-isolating at one point. So you could use that at one point if you need to. Pretty cool. Then you've got heat. Heat, which is basically a distortion. And this is how much, but it's a distortion that sounds warm, it doesn't sound, that's why heat is there. And because you also have the lo-fi here, so you get a kind of more of an analog filter, more of an analog distortion over here at the top. Heat is that, and lo-fi is more of the digital distortion. Then you get the crush, so the aliasing of the sampling frequency rate basically, and the sampling rate will be here, changing the bit rate here, or the bit rate. But this gives you so really cool, sounding. Listen to this. But then the volume becomes really loud, so then you get a limiter. So to protect your ears, a glide. Let's turn that off for now. Turn on the glide, and basically going to glide. You got LFO1. Now you go LFO1, where is it going? Now see, this is going to cutoff point. You got the LFO little information on top of it. But if you want to see where it's going and what type of shape you're using, you click on more, and you can go a little deeper here and have a destination. So LFO1 can have one destination. Pick the one you want. In this case, the filter, frequency cutoff, and you got the shape here. Let's say you want to have this one. And then now you have the rate and you got the amount. Now, a tip to know, the difficulty now is to basically know this is moving around which value. You see, if I put this like that, it moves like this. If I stop it and I select that it's going to be starting from here. Now, if I play it again, it's going to go around the value it was when it was off. So that's kind of a one tip. It's because it's like if I click on it and if I want it to be, on one side, it doesn't work. So I need to stop it again, but it stays at where it was when it stopped. And if I turn it on again, now it's going to oscillate around that value. So that's kind of a weird way, in my view, to do it. But it means that you need to stop, position where you want it to go. And if you say, I want the amount of LFO around that point would be just halfway, now it's going to move up and down from that section. Okay, that's what I want. I want it to be less, it's less. I want it to be more, it's more. So but if you stop again, it's going to go from that point now. So every time you turn it back on, you need to select where you want it to start from, or this metal value if you want. But that's good, and you have most of the values of the synthesizer is there. So you can really modulate almost anything in the synthesis here, which is pretty cool. And we got the limiter, just talked about that. Next one, and go into oscillator. Now you start to create your sound here. We've got two layers. These are samples. So you click on the choice here of sample. There's a bunch. There's a lot of really cool one. Oh, I still have some analog filter. I want to listen to the full sound. So that's that sound. We hear the tuck, the thump at the beginning. So without any effect, I don't use the envelope right now. I don't use the filter, turn it entirely on. Just the sample they use, you just can take one here and start playing. It's just easy. It sounds already really cool. So that's, I think, one of the quick way is that you just pick a sample and play. Now, if you want to go further, you can actually combine two of them. You've got a layers and you got a mix volume here between the two. So here now this one and this one. And you can even pan them one left and right. So you can create some interesting things. You can detune one compared to the other and semitone and a. It's a monophonic synthesizer, remember that. And you can also turn off the sample. If you click here, now it's using synthesis. So virtual analog synthesis, you have a sine wave. I'll turn this one off. Sine wave, triangular, square. Let's actually try it lower in pitch. Cool. You got a sawtooth, and you have a pulse wave that you actually have a pulse width modulation. Pretty nice. Okay. Remember, one of the destinations you can have from LFO1 is this. You can have that. Let's go back here. Cutoff point. I want to send to pulse width modulation of LF layer 1. Where is that? Layer 1, oscillator 1, pulse width modulation. Here you go. Go back here. Oops, turned it back on. Just turn it on. Go here, and then you got too fast. too deep of the movement. So that's it. Pretty cool. I got what I wanted. I got the sound I want, for example. Let's turn it off for now. Go back here. Again, you have, in this case, you've got an envelope, ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, release, classic stuff. You have a second one. By default, if they're linked, they're both going into the same type of envelope, attack, decay, sustain, release, same shape, same speed. If you unlink them, you can basically have two different speed. So you could use, I don't know, let's say we have this one tune up and then layer them together. So you hear this one coming later on. Let's say we try something else instead of a analog. So you have this one coming later on. Okay, this one goes, as this one is right away there. And this one could go down in volume. But you have the two at the same time. That's it. Next one is sequencer. Now sequencer, let's just bring this so we have some attack so we hear it. Sequencer, turn it on. You can basically click here and say, got the gate. Gate length, the rate, so the time division. Got the steps. You could say, I just want to have 3 steps. So it becomes an arpeggiator if you want to, you know. Pretty cool. Now destination, basically it sends to both. These are layers, or layer 1 or layer 2. Okay, so you could have just one. So you have one layer that doesn't trigger respond, one layer that does not. Layer 2 does not respond to the sequencer, as layer 1 does. Okay, that's it. Let's turn it off for now. And when you get into Pro section, that basically if you really want to do sound design. So you have another LFO here, LFO2. Again, this one has 2 destination, the list of everything else we talked before that, even the total of step, the step division. So this can be really bizarre, but you can have 2 different destination. Layer 1, the attack, for example. The other one can be assigned to, I don't know, pulse with LFO2, LFO1 rate. So you can even control the rate LFO1. So you can have a big, interesting movement here. On top of that, you got a chorus, the depth, the rate, the mix. So this is actually pretty cool. Too fast, kind of weird, but you also have delay, which is really cool and nice. Taps, the feedback, and the time. It has that really cool digital noise of it's interesting. I like the sound. It has its own sound. That's something you hear often. Advanced tips for you guys. There's the LFO free mode, restart, and one shot. Now, if we go back into synthesis here, you see that you have envelopes, but they cannot be assigned to something else than volume. They're both assigned to controlling the amplitude of each of the layers. It would be nice to have, you know, unlink this, or have this one say I can assign it to something, like clicking here and assign it to, let's say, the filter, but it's not the case. But if I want to have, let's say, this sound, but I want to have I want to have the filter that closes up every time I press a key. Well, I can't. It's not linked to anything. But what I can do, either with LFO 1 or 2, both can do it. Click on it and say, well, I want to control my, where is it? A filter cutoff. Here it is. Filter cutoff. And I want to put it, let's say at midway. And I want to do this envelope. This, not envelope, but this shape. This shape is a saw down. So it goes up really quickly, like an attack, and then goes down slowly, like a decay or a release. So if I click on LFO now, this thing is going to be triggering once every time I play a key. But it will not re-trigger. Well, it does. So if I put it higher, or if I go more amount, say here, I'm going to turn it off, put it back here, turn it back on. And again, adds a distortion and some lo-fi. Go back to sequence, turn it on. So let's just listen to some of the sounds. So the first section are mostly bass, but they're really nice and round. And you go further down, there's a ton of them. Further down, you get into playing basically drums, kick snare, you know, analog. Put headphones for this. It's just so low. And I did some sounds. I don't know if they're going to be released with it, but I did some, and I play with the stuff that I just like the sound. It's like nasty. And again, if you can go back here, you can. I could actually send it to this. Okay, this one. Now this one has two sound, pan left and right. And you go here on more volume. Okay, so playing with the pan left and right. Talk Robot to me was playing with the feedback of the delay. And that's really just the feedback changing speed in real time. Get that artifacts of digital nastiness. I was trying to create leads instead of bass. It's cool because it sounds like retro type of sounding through an old speaker. I did enjoy the lo-fi a lot. Turn it off and still have a try this one. And this one is a sequence. Let's go back lower. I'll create a sequence of just the kick drums. And this one I'm using a lot of the drop and heat for the distortion sound. Happy Synth. That's my view of Happy Synth. Pan, but with attitude. And here, listen. I love that little. And if you keep a finger on it, you don't have that little sound. When you release, little. Then was trying to play with pads concepts. But it's also good for, you know, mono lead sound. So I'm not playing with for bass because I know it does real bass. I'm trying to do everything else that it's not supposed to be doing. But then I also go back to just playing with weird sequence of kicks. Little pad. Kick. Nasty kick. Now this one I'm using my LFO as a envelope control. So you get resonance of the kick. I did a lot of nasty kicks. And I combined the two. Like this one is a sample. If I turn it off, I only hear the synth. And the other one is the kick without the synth. And the two together, I like that. A shorter one. It's kind of a noise, weird stuff. And I'll go back to lead to sync. Now this one, also have the LFO doing his part of opening up and closing. See the movement of the decay of the LFO doing the envelope thing on the filter. That's it. Another great synth from AudioKit. Now this one is aimed at bass and kick. You can do a lot of the things with it. It's easy to do nasty sounding stuff because of the distortion and the lo-fi and the crush and the bit dip and all that stuff is really cool. The kick is, the drop is something that you don't see often, which is really cool. And the fact that you don't have the other envelope, but you can use the LFO in a way that they become attack and decay envelope, it's also an option that is fun. So that's it. If you find that interesting, look it up. AudioKit, King of Bass. Stay safe, make more music, and see you soon. Cheers.